isn't a term for that. I guess that's why I use the term depth psychologist, because in psychology, that's the field that deals with the unconscious minds and delving into sort of higher realm thoughts.
Sure. And how does one become a depth psychologist and a dream teacher? Kind of what led you to this? And how did you get to do this as a job?
It's been a very long pathway for me. I wanted to train. I wanted to get a degree. I wanted to be licensed before I worked with people. I felt like I needed to have a strong background so that when I was dealing with people and whatever they would bring to me, that I felt comfortable, and I felt like psychology was the route for me to do that. And I'm very grateful that I became licensed and worked in practices and hospitals and with couples, and most of my training at that time, I dealt with absolutely zero dreams. It was mainly crisis and trauma because of where I lived in South Africa at the time. Most of the hospitals, that's what you're dealing with. But at the same time, I've always had a very strong intuition and have always had very powerful dreams, and my dreams have been very insightful. And through depth psychology and depth work, dreams are very meaningful and carry a lot of weight. And so when I finally felt like I had some skill and some training and some kind of weight behind me, I thought, okay, what is it that I really love, what I want to do? Spirituality is such a big part of my life, and dreams just felt like a natural fit to kind of pursue that path. So I decided I would try and write a book, and here we are. So that's how I kind of became a dream teacher, but it isn't, I wouldn't say, very common.
No, not at all. That's why I'm so fascinated by it. And the idea of a depth psychologist, I'd never heard of that before. And then when I kind of learned about you, I've started looking into it. And so that's looking at the kind of the psychology of the subconscious. I mean, I suppose a lot of psychology is around the subconscious, but this is kind of particularly, we're looking at intuition and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And it's very much about sort of depth psychology. It very much believes that like you have your subconscious mind, and then you have your unconscious mind. The subconscious, a lot of us are very familiar with. The unconscious is where our dream imagery comes from, and we're in the watery depths of anything that we kind of haven't processed. So for any depth psychologists, most of them are Jungian analysts. They focus on the unconscious specifically, and bringing that imagery, bringing that emotion, bringing that thinking up into conscious awareness, so that you're not moved by hidden forces, so that you have a lot more autonomy in your life, and what Jung called wholeness and individuation. So becoming like the closest to yourself that you can be.
Yeah, sure. We're going to look at some of the most common dream themes, and also maybe analyze some of the kind of weirder dreams. But I'd love to know what's the weirdest, or not, maybe weird is the wrong word. You probably won't like that word. when I was using that to describe it, I thought I'm sure that's not very professional. But what's the most bizarre or strangest kind of like dream request, client request you've had, or situation that you've been in?
I think the sort of weirdest dream requests that I get currently are, I've actually had so many, and when I read this question, I thought, which dream do I give you in response? I've had one or two people come to me with very weird dreams about spiders crawling out of them.
Right.
But then at the time, it sounds like a really sort of creepy, weird dream, and it is. I mean, imagine you're sleeping and you're having this dream, and then all of a sudden you're pregnant, and these spiders are coming out of your belly. But they were in intense processes of creating in their life, and wow. So I think, so what seems kind of weird actually has a lot of meaning. So I'm all for the weird imagery. Actually, I feel like the weirder it gets, probably the more meaningful it is.
Yeah, that's so good.
Bring it. We can go there. That's
brilliant to know. So the weirder, the more juicy, I suppose, for you, isn't it? Yeah, and the better. Did you hear that, guys? The weirder your dreams are, the more significance, the more we can dive into them, which is good to know. Let's talk about the book quickly then, before we move on to that. Like, we're obviously going to be going through some of the themes from the book, but yeah, let's talk about the book and who you've written it for and what you really hope people will get from it. A quick reminder, this is the book, guys.
I wrote it for anyone who's interested in dreams and is open to spirituality. And my main goal with this book was that I wanted any sort of modern person to just become reacquainted with their dreams. I feel like in our modern world, we are actually so removed and so dissociated from our dreaming, and our dreams are so powerful. So I feel like if I can just leave the reader with some form of empowerment and understanding that every night you are given solutions, guidance, wisdom, even if the dreams are weird and scary and frightening, your dreams are speaking to you. And if you begin to listen to your dream wisdom, you really, really will start to see positive impact in your life. And if you take action on your dream wisdom, your dreams adapt to you. So that's diving quite deep into it. But that's what I was hoping to impart with this book.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, should we talk then quickly about how would you even get started then? Because I know when I was looking at some of the FAQs and talking to people about what we might be talking about tonight, a lot of people said, I don't remember my dreams, or, you know, as soon as I wake up, they're gone. So let's go right back to that for people that might be feeling that they don't see the power because they don't really remember them.
I remember them, right? It's completely normal. I think also the fact that we live such distracted lives, dreams, we are so disconnected from our dreams often because of that. So very basic and fundamental things help. First things first, don't take cell phones into the bedroom with you. Tons of people speak about this, right? Try and create, sleep should be a sanctuary. So if you can, try and create at least 20 minutes before getting into bed where you aren't bombarded with information, blue lights, screens, that kind of thing. And a very helpful practice to do as you're lying in bed and you're going to fall asleep, you can do something called dream incubation. And it's actually a very ancient technique spoken about in a lot of cultures. And the idea is that as you're falling asleep, you hold in your mind the thought that you want to either explore in your dreaming. And if you're struggling to remember your dreams, the thought is simply to be able to wake up and remember them. And so there's lots of research studies that prove that that's also effective from a scientific point of view. And then in the morning when you wake up, this is very difficult to do. And it's also been proven that on waking, you know how automatically you want to move your body. You just feel like you've got to move. And that actually changes the way your mind stores memory. Well, not changes it, but if you move your body, your dreams can disappear. So if you can replay your body whilst you remain still, it actually helps your mind catch up and it stores the dream into memory more fully. And so for anyone who struggles, that is probably the most practical and easy thing you can do. And if you do it for a week, your dreams, you should be able to remember your dreams a lot more easily. Yeah.
So basically just staying still while while you let it kind of come to you and filter through.
Yeah. And you just replay it once or twice, and then you should be able to remember it at least for a good 15 minutes. And then if you're like me, I mean, I'm a dream nut, you know, then you write your dreams down or just notes so that you can at least remember, you know, key points.
Yeah, sure. Because I picked up on, you said your husband and you both dream journal in the morning. So is that like journaling as we know it? Just kind of like free writing or what?
Definitely. So you can free write. I've created a journal for people who are looking to explore that. But the main thing I would say is that as you dream journaling, just write down the key symbols and the key things that happened. And then if you have time, I know a lot of people are very limited in time, you know, try and write down whatever you remember of the dream as fully as you can. What's amazing about that is if you look over a couple of months or even a couple of weeks, you'll start to see that a narrative runs through most of the time, and that's very helpful.
Yeah. And also the idea, I really like the idea, like you said before, do that for a week and things will start to change, because it's a practice, isn't it? And I think that's what you're trying to, like a message of the book and of your work, is that it's like the more you pay attention, the more you will learn.
Exactly. And the more your dreams, I really do, when I say speak to you, they will speak to you loudly. You know, it's almost like, imagine if you have this benevolent guide that's standing in front of you and they're gifting you all this information. And in our waking life, you'd listen, you'd be like, well, maybe this is someone I should listen to. And our dreams, I feel, are very much the same, but we just dismiss them.
Yeah.
So the more you begin to pay attention, the easier it is to get your dream messages through to you. And then generally what happens is the imagery changes. It becomes less evocative because your psyche isn't trying to, like, it isn't clamoring for your attention because you're paying attention. Yeah.
Totally. Okay, so let's go through some dream FAQs. And guys, if you have any questions as we go through, please put them in the chat. The dreams that you mentioned earlier, we're gonna kind of analyze a little bit at the end. When I say we, I obviously mean Athena is going to. But yeah, these are my kind of FAQs, some of the big issues that I've kind of pulled out of this book, the big themes. So you did mention, you just touched on the idea of symbols there. And so sometimes, even if you can't remember the full dream, or it makes zero sense, there are different symbols, and quite often quite common symbols. So can you talk us through some of the most common symbols and what they mean?
So I think the best way to look at it is by looking at common themes, right? As opposed to symbols, because symbols are so personal, but we often have we experience a lot of things collectively, like being chased. Like you were saying earlier, looking for ladders. We have themes of going up and going down, ascending, descending, finding expansion or being trapped. So the symbols with those kind of themes are very universal. You know, you can be stuck in a lift, in the back of a car or whatever it is, but the theme is speaking to you about an emotional narrative. If you're climbing up something, or you're looking to climb up something, your dream is speaking to you about perspective, or needing to find a higher perspective, or depending on the rest of the dream, imagery and what you're seeing, the right action for you to take. And so for me, when we talk about common symbols, you know, if someone was going to look at their dream tonight, and then after this call go and Google and say, okay, what's the meaning of teeth falling out? Say, for example, that's a really common one. And then Google, I think the Google description is something like, you know, it's anxiety or it's stress. And there might be some truth to that, but really your dreams are very individualized, even if you're having a common experience. So many people can dream of their teeth falling out, but say a bulimic dreaming about their teeth falling out will be very different to someone who's nervous about speaking in front of a group of people.
Sure.
And the dream means something different for both people. So I always think with common dream things, the best question anybody can ask is, why am I having this dream right now in this way? And then to just think about what the imagery means for you. So if you know, say you dream of an apple and I dream of an apple, but I'm allergic to apples, then, you know, my dream would be alerting me to something that I'm probably allergic to in life, or that it's warning me of something that I need to watch out for. So with common dream symbols and everything, I always feel like just bring it back down to your own narrative as much as you can.
Sure. And what about when you have bad dreams? Like sometimes, or quite often, I think people will have dreams that might make no sense, but they kind of feel the emotion attached to the dreams is quite intense, and you wake up and you don't feel great. Does that always mean that there's something bad in your life to be looking out for, or is it like how linked are our emotions to what we're seeing in our dreams?
I think they're very linked, but I don't think that it means that something bad is going to happen. So if you have a really bad nightmare, or just a stream of bad dreams, I don't think that means that you need to be on guard. We do have different kinds of dreams, and this is something that I speak about, I think, in the book. Yes, in the book. I was trying to think if it was the book or the journal. It's in the book. And you can have, there's an example of an astrophysicist that I write about, and he had a dream where he was in the dream, and he saw a car, and the car looked like his wife's car, and it blew up. And he woke up, and it felt really bad, like severely bad. You know, he woke up quite distressed about this dream. And having some insight, he thought, like, am I angry with her? Is this like something going on internally that I need to look at? And he decided, like, no, that's not what my dream means. There's no like residual anger within me that aimed at her. It's not about anger, my dream. So he thought, I'm going to be pragmatic, and I'm going to go and check her car out. And he took it to a mechanic, and it turned out that her car was like a ticking time bomb. She literally was primed to have an accident. So his dream, even though bad and what we would say is maybe negative on the surface, really ended up being very helpful. But you have to learn how your dreams are speaking to you, and you have to be able to have the insight to be able to go, okay, is this something that I'm going through emotionally, or is this maybe something more numinous in nature? And that's really what I was hoping to teach people in my book, and something that I outlined throughout the whole, throughout the course of the book, because it is a skill that can be learned. It just needs to be practiced.
Yeah, sure. And so the idea there of like exploring the emotions, or exploring the symbolism, it's that it's a very linked to self-discovery, isn't it? And that kind of self-awareness, and like you said, and I think you used the word perspective before, it's like looking at things from a different perspective, and what does that mean to you right now? Yeah, I think that's really that just can be so valuable in life anyway, can't it, to take that kind of like a wider view and bigger picture.
And it's coming, I mean, really, from, when you think about it, your dreams are yours. So that's what's so wonderful about them, that I really feel like they give you what you need, although at times the imagery might not be what you want.
Yeah.
Actually, often it's not what you want, but it is what we need a lot of the time.
Yeah, sure. And does the quality of our sleep affect the quality of our dreams, do you think?
I very much think it does. I mean, for anyone who's gone to bed feeling really stressed out and anxious about something, or, you've had a major fight with someone or a partner, you know that your dreams can feel frenetic because of it. Or if you're just struggling to sleep because you just had a baby or something. So I really do think there is a very pragmatic level to how sleep affects our dreams. So the better you can cultivate your sleep life, the easier it is.
And you talk about when in the descriptions of the book, you're talking about how we can use what we learn from our dreams to be more creative and have more clarity in our real life. So is that again like listening to the messages, or how can we do that? How can we translate what happens in those kind of sleeping hours into kind of better days, I suppose?
Yeah. It's so amazing. So many people use their dreams for creative inspiration, and they all have different pathways to it. So Salvador Dali used the hypnagogic state, which is the state of sleep it's the state between sleep and dreams, that you can learn how to cultivate with specific practices that I share. And so that state of consciousness is loaded with imagery. So if there's anyone very creative or an artist listening to this, please explore that, because it's mind blowing. It literally is such an experience to go through that state. But just for, everyday regular sleeping and regular dreaming, you can use your dreams in whatever way you choose, right? So if you have a problem that you really need guidance on, and you try to incubate solutions on waking, the dream might offer you a creative solution. I think also what tends to happen is that the more you work with imagery, it's almost like something awakens within us that affords us, we've rekindled a connection with that part of ourselves. So it's much easier to then be creative in waking life. And then there's there are also so many examples of people who've gotten great ideas for businesses or, you know, solutions. Like the idea for Google came from a dream. The Paul McCartney, a lot of his music and songs are inspired by dreams. So I really just think it depends on the person, but I'm all for it. I mean, a lot of my book, a lot of the concepts that came up for me were inspired by my dreams.
Of course. Yeah. So great for creativity and also healing. It sounds like.
Healing, it's amazing. I feel like lucid dreaming is something that we haven't spoken about here, and it's a whole other dimension to dreaming. Lucid dreaming is literally when you're in a dream and you just become aware of the fact that you're dreaming. And in that state of consciousness, you can heal, you can become more proficient in skills. And it's been proven through studies like, you know, through research studies done through universities like Harvard. So there is a lot of scientific backing showing that we can actually use our dream life for a lot more than what we're currently using it for. And this is something that Buddhists have been speaking about, and sort of any ancient cultures have been speaking about for a very long time, using the dream space to heal. And I think what happens is because you're not in resistance to your psyche, whatever's happening internally is looked at and then shifted, and then you see a change on waking.
Yeah. So is lucid dreaming something everyone should aim for? Like we should, and is it something we could all do?
I believe everyone can lucid dream. I would love to say yes, I think it's something everyone should aim for. And I think it is, you know, but I don't know if it's a pathway for everyone. It requires a lot of mindfulness, lucid dreaming. It's almost like meditating. The benefits are profound, but it does require some discipline and some practice. But what's incredible about it is that in a lucid dream, in the dream world, in the dreamscape, we're not bound by the same laws of nature that we experience in our waking reality. And so in the dream world, you can come in contact with your own psyche symbolically and actually be conscious about that. And that's something that depth psychology is yet to explore. So I really feel the applications for it are just so profound. So for anyone interested in consciousness, in what it means to be alive, in who you think you are as a core, at your core, very sort of big existential questions, then lucid dreaming is definitely a great pathway.
And would the first steps to be able to do that be to be more mindful in your day-to-day life?
But yeah, that is exactly it. The more present you can become in your waking life, the easier it is to recognize that you're dreaming. So for example, when I used to be a very avid lucid dreamer as a child, and then as a teenager, and then in my 20s, I just went through a patch where I didn't dream, I didn't focus on anything. I was just out sort of kind of being a crazy 20-year-old. And then when I wanted to rekindle the ability again, I really had to focus on becoming more mindful in my waking life and to sort of calm that energy. But what happens is that you recognize the dream space much more easily because you can recognize anomalies. So for example, I had a dream where I was at my sister's house and I was walking through the house and everything was the same, you know, walking through her kitchen, walking through the dining room, whatever. And then I got to the backyard and then it was this incredible infinity pool. And my sister doesn't have an infinity pool in her backyard. So it triggered lucidity, and it really was a link from cultivating more mindfulness. So yes, that's a great pathway.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So because you've been there, you got back there eventually, but you need to make sure you're present in your everyday and not just you can't be just having a wild day. And like you say, with all the inputs and on the phone and all that stuff, and then expect to go to sleep and have this magical experience.
Right. I mean, it might happen, but I think it is quite rare that. And I think that, you know, because lucid dreaming is very much about, well, for me, it's very much about a pursuit of finding being connected to a greater level of consciousness, I think that's where the mindfulness comes in. So this is definitely my route to it. It might be different for other people.
Yeah, sure. Do we have any lucid dreamers on the call, guys? Let us know in the chat. I think we have at least one that I know of. So what I thought we'd do now, Athena, is I'm going to ask anybody if they've got any specific dreams that they would like analyze, if that's cool, and get them to, can you, if you have a dream, a recent dream that you would really like to know what it's all about, drop it in the chat box and we'll go through a few. And then David, I think hopefully you've done a little list of the common dream themes that people shared at the beginning, and we can maybe go through those. So if you don't mind dropping those in the chat. I have indeed. Yes, he has. And is there, was there anything from the book that you wanted to share? Like I think there's some journaling exercises and things like that. Is there anything that you'd like to share with these guys while we get them to write their dreams down?
You know, I guess I would love to share. I think the easiest way to dream journal is to just really look at your dream as a full story, and really just try and believe that there is a benevolence a loaded word, but it's the word I use in the book, a benevolent message for you in your dream, and try and clarify it as easily as you can. I see a lot of people in tidal wave dreams.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Let's okay. So losing teeth, you kind of talked about earlier. So you said Google's got its own kind of decision what that is.
Yeah, it's not the same.
But it could be different for different people. So they, with like, I suppose like everything, but yeah, water-based dreams. So rising water, tidal waves, tsunamis.
So tsunami dreams are interesting to me. There's a lot of research. I actually had a tsunami dream the other night, and then Crete had a tsunami warning. It was quite cosmic timing. The tsunami, well, you're so flooded. You are so flooded, and it's violent, right? A tsunami can land up in death, in destruction, in complete wiping out. And water is so symbolic and so evocative, because we can be soothed by water, or we can be completely overtaken by it. And so it's really something to look at how you're feeling, whether you're able to express yourself honestly, if the relationships around you are providing that kind of room for you, as well as how you are dealing with the more numinous aspects of life. And water often is also very symbolic of the unconscious. So say you find yourself in water and you're swimming in the ocean, but it's a dream that feels safe and comfortable, and then all of a sudden there's a tiger in the water with you. That is an animal comes up in your dream to show you your instincts, how you're connecting to your instincts, and then because you're in water, it's out of your awareness in your waking life, and it's your emotional life. So it's about connecting your instincts with your emotions and then bringing it back up to surface, which is the waking life. So for anyone who's dreaming of water or tidal waves specifically, I think it's very helpful to journal and write out what you're going through. And then also, interestingly enough, and this is not relevant to everyone, but there was a researcher whose name I can't remember now, and he found that people who have experienced traumatic events, it can be current or even in the past, will often have tidal wave dreams, because you're rendered quite helpless in a tidal wave experience. And so there's something to just acknowledging that, and acknowledging that your psyche wants you to sort of see that. So I didn't see the other ones though.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think that the idea of like being helpless or powerless, I've seen a few people have talked in the chat earlier on about like that feeling of being paralyzed. And I mentioned as well, for me, it's when big things are going on in my life, I have like my legs just will not work in dreams, and it's a horrible feeling, and it's very frustrating. So is that quite a common thing?
I think it is common, and I feel the experience of it is exactly what you kind of just said. When you have big things going on, and so your dream life comes to alert you, it can be very helpful on waking then to do something that feels incredibly empowering. So it can be through speaking about it, or if you rendered stuck in a dream or you can't move fast enough. Like I often have dreams where I'll be running, but someone will be chasing me and I can't run fast enough.
Yeah.
So, and it's that feeling of like, you're being attacked. And so the helpful thing there is to then look at the environment in the dream, not just the experience of it, right? Who is chasing you? When you're unable to walk, what else is around you? Because those symbols, that imagery actually illuminates what's going on internally. And the goal is really to link the emotion with the rest of the imagery and then to shift the narrative on waking. And I really feel that's how we transform our waking life patterns.
Yeah. A few people have talked about, running away, being chased, wanting to run, not being able to. Another common one, study-based dreams. So not finishing an exam, not doing any work. The exam suddenly being the next day and you haven't prepared. Is that just like standard nerves, or
I would say the studying ones generally tend to feel, it's a feeling of being unprepared. It's something that's making you feel unprepared, or you're not ready. Or if you're someone who, because if you went through school, I would also ask myself, like, how did you go through school? If you were someone that was quite type A and always organized and always prepared, and then a dream like that comes to you, it's very sort of against what you usually like. But if you're generally someone who's very unprepared, then the school, having a dream where you're completely unprepared, it's just telling you what's happening.
Yeah, because Sonia said she has a dream about haven't done coursework or revised for an exam, but she hasn't been a student for a while. So it's just like, it's the kind of like, what's the symbolism of that being unprepared, and what's it referring to?
Exactly. What's it referring to in the current time space that you find yourself in? And it doesn't have to be a work thing. I think that's often something that happens with common dream themes. So we think, okay, we're being chased by someone. So is it someone attacking you? Is it a relationship, a belief? Is it a part of yourself that's attacking you in your sleep? And so the imagery will be helpful with that. And feeling unprepared is the same thing. When you're unprepared and you're having dreams like that, yes, it can be anxiety, but it can also be something like you're overcoming a fear or a limit in your current life, in your waking life, and you're not prepared for it because you're not relying on old systems of action or belief. So I would see that actually quite a lot in my practice when people are really, they're taking that leap into something new and something that is actually really beneficial in their life, something that's going to yield something great, a relationship, whatever. Sometimes they'll have dreams of going up a mountain and there's a sheer drop, there's a sheer cliff, and that dream feels so anxiety provoking, and it is, but it's alerting the dreamer to the fact that like they're almost there, you're ascending to something very new, and often we are unprepared for that. The only thing you can do is go through it, much like sitting through an exam where you're being tested and you just got to go with it. I mean, what else can you do?
That's very cool. So it's kind of like you're leveling up, but you're not prepared for it, because you can't always be prepared for that.
No, and you also can't rely on old systems of it. For anyone who breaks old old habits that they're trying to break, people will often have dreams that are anxiety provoking, where they're stuck, they're being tested, things like that will come up because that is the reality for them. They're learning something completely new.
Yeah, sure. Amazing. I'm going to ask this question. I don't think anyone else has, but I bet everyone else has had a dream like this. When you have like a romantic dream about someone you don't like or think you don't like, what's that all about? Anyone else have that dream ever? No, I'm not the only one.
I feel like there's two things for me with that. The first is that if it's a person that you don't like and you've had a bad experience, say it's a very different dream. If you have a dream of someone and they say a celebrity that you've never met, but you don't like them.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Because that's something unknown. That's a person you don't know. That's an idea of a person. Right. And then that will mean the qualities, the attributes, the characteristics of that person are something that you need to look at and see if there's something within you that you're doing. So I often find that that's like a sort of shadow aspect. And I think it comes up in a sort of sexual nature because it's about union. We need, you're trying to join aspects of yourself that are either uncomfortable to look at or are very alluring. And that also can be quite challenging for a lot of people, and we have a dream of, I mean, I'll never forget, I think I was like, it's so embarrassing, probably 20 or 19 or something, I had dreams of Brad Pitt. And I mean,
you won't be the only one on this call, I'm pretty sure.
That's why I can probably admit it. And at the time, I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, oh, I'm swooning over that person. And I mean, there can be that obvious thing if you're a super fan of someone, or, but that's a like, oh, I really like Brad Pitt, I'm dreaming of him. That's something like you're swooning over it. But when it's a person that you dislike, what is it about them that irks you so much? And then ask yourself, am I like that person in any shape or form? Or are any of my relationships like that person in any shape or form? And try and be as honest as you can be, because I think it will be very illuminating.
Sure. So yeah, it's throwing light on something about yourself that you might need to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah, damn it. I thought that might be the answer. This is a good question, following on from the romance dreams. What about if you're dreaming your partner is cheating on you? When you don't, that's not something like Katie said, in waking life, that's not a concern at all. But or maybe your partner's cheating on you, or someone like a friend or a family member has done something bad that you don't like. Like, I think we've all woken up and you've almost had an argument with someone, and you feel like arguing with them about what's happened.
Right. I think that it's difficult there, because I feel like if you're dreaming of your partner cheating on you, I don't always think it's a sexual thing. It can be a minor thing that feels like a slight betrayal, because that really is what most people would say cheating is, that it's painful and that there's an element of betrayal. And I think that, again, people are not dreaming of your partner. It doesn't mean that it's about your partner, like that you need to wake up and shout at them because now they're cheating on you. It might represent something else, like, are you betraying yourself in your relationship currently? Are they betraying you on some level, and you're not willing to admit that, or it feels like a betrayal? And it can be something simple like that you haven't had enough time together. Right. And so, so it doesn't always have to be this, it's not always this intense thing, although the feeling space is there. And often if you just recognize the feeling, it's a feeling of betrayal, either I'm betraying myself in some form, or the relationship's letting me down in some form, and looking at what that is can be very helpful with those kind of dreams.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense. And earlier on, Kim said, what about reuniting with ex-partners from many years ago? And I suppose and sometimes the dreaming about people who you think you haven't thought about for years. And like, 'cause I have that sometimes, it's usually with colleagues, but yeah, what about that?
I feel like with the first one, with the reuniting with your ex from sort of old lovers, I would think about what the relationship was like when you were in it, and what you were left feeling when it ended, because it's obviously over, and what it is in your current life and space that relationship would fill. So, or that person would fill or wouldn't. So both, right? So if you're dreaming of an ex who was terrible, it was a bad relationship, and you could think of nothing worse than going back, then what is it currently that is making you feel like you are going towards that space. You know, obviously there's also something here about if you've been scrolling through Facebook or Instagram and you see them and then all of a sudden they're appearing in your dreams. Your dreams can be very adaptive like that, but I don't think that they are not specific. So I would ask, why this person in this way right now? And then when you dream of old colleagues, or people that you haven't thought about in a long time, but the relationship is like platonic or friendly, I always think there's something to actually reaching out.
Sure. So that's your
feel,
intuition. It's kind of like pinging. Yeah.
Very much. And I think that most of the people that I've worked with, often when they'll say, you know, I've had this dream or I thought about this person and it's so weird that I'm thinking about it, then I feel like, what's the harm in reaching out? If there is harm in reaching out, then don't do it, obviously. But I feel like, you know, collectively, we're actually all linked. So I feel like we often dream very intuitively and we just don't realize we're doing it.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about a dream from earlier that Emma Kay shared then. Her most common dream, trying to get on the school bus, but always having to go home to get something I have forgotten, including clothes, bags, money, anything. And I never managed to get to the bus or my destination. So what could you pull out of a dream like that that's happening quite a lot?
I feel like the school bus is a very good image. So it's, you know, it's something, obviously it's a vehicle that takes you to school in childhood. And again, the feeling of feeling unprepared and not ready, not having enough money, not being on time, not arriving. And I would say that for the person who shared this dream is probably a feeling space within you that you need to look at, although your physical life might not represent that. So you might be, you know, very successful and doing a whole lot of whatever in your waking life, but there's a part of you that doesn't feel resolved about it.
Okay, good to know. What about
answer, but that is what I think.
yeah. No, well, sometimes like it's sometimes super simple, probably, isn't it? And other times it requires a bit more exploration, I suppose, like we said. Someone else has mentioned about harm coming to their family and they're not able to save them. So someone trying to kill their family and they're not able to save them, and that's a recurring dream.
So frightening. It's so frightening to have dreams like that. This is where I think lucid dreaming is also very, very helpful, because if you can recognize that you're dreaming in the moment, you can change the nightmare. And because it's a recurring dream, any recurring dream is pointing us to something that we have not completely resolved in our waking life, or we need to pay attention. It's my belief of this. On a spiritual level, we need to pay greater attention to something, a relationship, what we're doing in our lives, what drives us, right? And so when it comes to a familial thing, I'm assuming here that the dreamer has a positive relationship with their family, that is probably the greatest loss that you could witness, or one of the greatest loss. So I would say, look at how you feel about loss, what loss you have experienced in your life, how safe you feel, your family is. And sometimes, you know, there might not be actions that you can take in your waking life, but just being able to address the feeling space can sometimes be very helpful.
Yeah, because I suppose that's the $1 million question, maybe, isn't it? So you get, like, we're getting this information and looking at the symbolism of these things, and then how can we use it? What do we do about it? So it's not always, like you say, it's not always about taking an action specifically. Maybe it's about raising awareness, but then I suppose action ultimately is a way to move forward from it, isn't it?
Especially when it's repetitive. So I feel like action can be a very helpful way in changing it. But say you have a repetitive dream about a situation that you can't change. You know, if you have a dream about someone that you have lost, and you have a repetitive dream, or you consistently being chased because your psyche shows you, like, in that image, in that way, that you're on overload, you need to do something. I feel like there's sometimes it's just helpful to accept the image as it is, and then find a way to transmute that in waking life. And I guess what I'm trying to say here, right, is that if you can't take a pragmatic action, like you can't resolve the situation, there isn't an actual thing you can do. You can at least change the imagery for yourself. So you can wake up and think of images about your family that do feel good to think about. Think about you feeling safe. Think about how you've overcome loss. So you want to cultivate a space that makes you feel a bit more secure and safer.
Yeah. No, lovely. Thank you for sharing that. Two more questions then, or one more question, then one more dream theme, and then and then I think we'll go back to talking about dream journaling, because I think everyone will want to know a bit more about we'll remind everybody about doing that. So Emma's question was, what does it mean when you are falling asleep and then feel you're physically falling and jolt awake as if you have hit the floor? So that kind of like you kind of wake yourself up. This happens a lot to me, and a few people have said it happens to them too. So is that part of the dream state?
It is. It's part of, there's a term for it, and for the life of me, I can't think of it now, but it's actually very normal, typical.
David, get on the Google.
Yeah, everyone get on the Google. But what I love about this, right? I feel people that happens. Thank you, David. I see he says he's on it. I feel that for people that this happens to often, you're actually on the cusp of being able to lucidly walk through your dream space. So I would say if you that's it, hypnic jerks, they're very, very, very normal. I almost wanted to say hypnotic jerks, but I can't remember. But anyway, so that it's really, really normal. It's your body. The drugs that move through our body so that we don't act out our dreams are starting to flood the system. And what happens is sometimes your conscious awareness is still awake, and that's why you feel that drop. And so part of lucid dream practices, part of mindfulness, is that if you experience that often, you can calm your mind down. If you can try and calm your mind so that you can recognize that you're about to fall asleep, and if you are able to do that, you can actually remain aware even though your body falls asleep, and you will see, it's quite amazing. Your dream, it's like a flat image that you'll start to see, and it's like looking at a photo, and then all of a sudden everything will become animated around you. And so it's really like not higher state of consciousness, but it's a practice of consciousness that you can try and cultivate, and it has many, many positive things that you can get out of it. So I would really recommend that for those people.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that is really because I think it's a feeling that probably most of us would try and fight, because it's unusual, and it's a bit of a shock, I suppose, isn't it? But it sounds like you can embrace it.
Yeah.
Yeah, incredible. And then finally from Winnie, she's asked about quite surreal things, so things that wouldn't happen in real life, like seem to end up running away, jumping in the midair, and then flying by swimming through the air. So things that are very, very unlikely to happen in real life. Would that have any particular meaning?
Firstly, I love dreams like that. I feel like if that's your experience, how amazing. Firstly, the idea of expansion, of being limitless, of having abilities to change and transmute and alter things, and that's the imagery that you're experiencing. I think that's incredibly powerful. I also think flying as a dream image, I really feel like it's when people are also ready to become lucid dreamers, because most of the time it's such an obvious thing, like I'm flying, I can't fly, how am I doing this? And those thoughts actually naturally come up for most people in dreams. Not always, not for everyone, but if you can recognize it, again, it's a great trigger for lucidity, and it's a practice that people often recommend trying to do, is flying in dreams. So I feel like with surreal images, with anything that feels really expansive or different, just go with it. Just go with it and see what it means in waking.
Yeah, amazing. And can you remind us again, you talked at the very beginning about how you could, as you're falling asleep, I think you called it dream incubation, you can kind of like have a thought or try not to guide your dreams necessarily, but so say if you're like, I really want to fly now, like now we all really want to fly in our dreams tonight. So can we think about that before we go to sleep, and will that help it happen?
I think it can help, definitely. But I think what's very helpful to know is how you word it. So as falling asleep, word it in present tense. I'm going to fly tonight. I'm going to fly tonight. And if you want, I'm going to fly tonight in my dreams. Maybe that's better. So try and word it in the present tense. So an example of why I say this is I worked with someone who was struggling to tap into his music, and he was a songwriter. And so he incubated a dream saying, I'm going to find my music. And then for the rest of the night, he had dreams where he was literally searching buildings, looking for sheets of music. He was so exhausted when he woke up the next day. He was like, this is not what I had in mind. So our words pack a punch with our dreams, and it's really helpful to just think about like how you're wording your intention, and what you're really hoping to get out.
Brilliant. We've got about 5 more minutes. So guys, let's close out in the chat box with letting me know, or letting us know what your intentions will be before you go to sleep tonight, because I think that's we're big on intentions here. And like you say, Athena, the power of language and words, and that is almost like an affirmation, isn't it, of something that you want to happen in your dreams. So let us know in the chat box what you might be intending tonight, guys. So finally, Athena, let's go through the idea of dream journaling again, and just what and how you recommend, like I think you said a beginning, a middle, and you see it as a story.
Right. So the easiest way that I can explain it is try and see your dream as a story, a whole story, not just one specific image or symbol. And in my book, I write about 2 different ways that you can interpret dreams. The one is a thematic way, it's much longer, and it will affect the way you dream journal. Because you'll go back and look for themes. But for just everyday guidance, the main thing is to write the story down and then say, why this dream in this way right now? And it's very, very helpful when you're dream journaling to write down key places, key feelings, and key people. Those 3 things are usually the most insightful, as well as I can't believe I almost forgot this, how you feel. How you wake up feeling and how the dream left you feeling. So so that's so a dream, so it's important how you wake up feeling, kind of like when you wake up and you're like in a good mood, a great mood, or just whatever, is that's important as well. I feel like it kind of tells you where you're at,
Sure. So the places, the feeling, people. And would you recommend, if we're doing our dream journaling, not as soon as you wake up, because first of all, you stay still to let it go into your brain. See, I was paying attention. And then what, you just do it before you get out of bed, and just spend a few minutes each day?
If you can, if you can do it before you get out of bed, I feel like it's the best time to do it, because your memory is so crisp and so clear. I work with a lot of people who go at the beginning, they start off and they only commit 5 minutes to dreams, and that's quite a lot for most modern people. And then as they start to work with their dreams, they realize like, wow, this is actually quite incredible. And it goes from like a 5-minute practice to a 20-minute practice, and even for some people like an hour. So it really depends on how much time you have and how much you want to dive into your inner world.
Yeah, sure. And like we said earlier, it's a practice, right? So the more you do it, the more you will get from it.
Right.
Okay, final question.
With us until we die. I mean, it's like the one consistent thing we will experience. So
yeah,
I feel it is really helpful.
Yeah, of course. Okay, just final question, and then we're going to say goodnight. So from Cheyenne, how about when something happens in your day that reminds you of what you dreamt of the night before? I would say that's intuition, right? That's just like,
that's intuition. There's something called déjà rêve. It's a type of experience, not exactly like déjà vu, where déjà vu you go, oh, I've had this experience. Déjà rêve is I've dreamt this. And there's something like 20 déjà topics, and I list a few of them in the journal, but they are so interesting and they are really worth the Google. So I really feel as you start to explore your dreams and recognize you can dream of future experiences. That's been my experience. You can dream about the well-being of other people. You can really explore consciousness and spirituality to a much greater degree if you're open to it.
Yeah, sure. And I think that's what it's really all about, isn't it? It's about being open to it, paying attention. And if you really want to get better at this and learn more about it, it's just like kind of, yeah, paying attention and being aware and like you and keeping, yeah, and looking for those recurring symbols and all that kind of stuff. All right, thank you so much. Thanks, Athena. I think that's been so interesting. I find it just fascinating, but you're right. It's like we're all going to do it forever. So we might as well make it work for us, right? Thank you guys for being here and for sharing your weird and wonderful dreams. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? How we're all so similar and so different at the same time. So yeah, we've shared links for the book, shared links for the website, and the new journal is out in November. Is that right?
In 2 weeks' time, on the 9th of November. Yeah.
Brilliant. We love a journal here, don't we, guys? So that'll definitely be some of those ordered. So thank you, David, for your support in the chat box. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks, Athena. We'll be announcing our new book club title on Monday, the 1st of November, which is a week today. And our next author event will be with Dr. David Hamilton, Monday, the 15th of November. So yeah, let's close by asking everyone to share in the chat box something they're looking forward to this week, because that's what we like to do, leave on a high. Athena, what are you looking forward to most this week?
Sleep.
Sleep. You need some sleep.
Yeah. How about you?
What am I looking forward to this week? Oh, well, I've been in quarantine since traveling, so I'm free. So just the idea that I can do anything is a bit more exciting. Visiting people, gym sessions, Halloween. Oh yeah, it's Halloween. So parties, fancy dress, any fancy dress suggestions I need. Good night's sleep. Brilliant. Okay, guys, thank you so much for being here. Athena, thanks so much. We finally made all the tech work and we appreciate it. And good luck with the book. This is the book, guys, beautiful book. And enjoy your dreams tonight, everyone. Sweet dreams. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.